श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं जीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले वेदान्तस्वामिनितिना श्री सारस्वते गौरवाणि निर्विशेष शून्यादिभाष्यन्त्य देशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रविषय सर्ववेद सिद्धांत सर्वलोकदा सर्वभागवत पुराण श्रीमद्भागवत कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे मदेक बंधो मत्संगी मत्कुरो मत्भाग्यमदानंदनमस्तु ते असाधु साधुतादाय नदिनीच्योत्सताकर आनमुञ्चिकदाचिन् मां प्रेरणाशक्तन्ते अस्पुरा ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Okay, 3.29.31 onwards. ततो वर्णाश्च चत्वारः तेषां ब्राह्मण उत्तमः ब्राह्मणेष्वपि वेदज्ञो ह्यर्थज्ञोऽभ्यधिकस्ततः. Among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is the best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmanas are best. Among the Brahmanas, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of the Veda is the best. The system of 4 classifications in human society according to quality and work is very scientific. This system of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras have now become vitiated, distorted, spoiled into, vitiated as the present caste system in India. But it appears that this system has been correct a very long time, since it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Unless there is such a division of the social orders in human society, including the intelligent class, the martial class, the mercantile class, and the laborer class, there is always confusion as to who is to work for what purpose. See, when Prabhupada talks about division, he's talking about graded division, hierarchical division, in which the philosopher theologians are at the top of society, and the ideal of society is for people to become that. That is what is defined as success. Success is defined in terms of Vairagya, Vidya, Vishnu Bhakti. A person trained to the stage of understanding the absolute truth is a Brahmana. And when such a Brahmana is Vedagya, that should be a hyphen between them. He understands the purpose of the Veda. The purpose of Veda is to understand the absolute. One who understands the absolute truth in 3 phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and who understands the term Bhagavan to mean the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered to be the best of the Brahmanas or a Vaishnava. So those who have studied the Vedas, they are better. Better than them are those who know the purport of the Veda. 32. Arthagya samshaya chetta tata shreyan swakarma krit mukta sangas tato bhuyan adaugdha dharmamat manaha. Better than the Brahmana who knows the purpose of the Vedas is he who can dissipate all doubts. And better than him is one who strictly follows the Brahmanical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination. And better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward. तादृशादपि स्वकर्म सम्यक् अकर्तुः सकाशात् स्वकर्म कृत्. Why is it सम्यक् अकर्तुः? Okay, wait. What is this? 32. 32. अर्थक्यादपि संशयच्छेत्ता मीमांसकः श्रेयान् ततः अपि केवलात् स्वधर्मकृत्. I have here in Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's reading Swadharmakrit instead of Swakarmakrit. Of course, meaning is the same. वेदोक्त धर्मकर्ता श्रेयान् ततः अपि आत्मनः धर्मान् अदौधा तत्फल इच्छा रहितः निष्कामः उक्तसंगः आसक्तिहीनः भूयान् श्रेयान् वेद तात्पर्य विद ब्राह्मण अपेक्षा मीमांसक ब्राह्मण श्रेष्ठ. Superior to one who knows the purport of, superior to a brahmana who knows the purport of the Vedas is a mimamsaka brahmana. A mimamsaka brahmana is one who has investigated the purpose of the Vedas. There are two mimamsa scriptures, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa is also known as Vedanta Sutra. It is written by Srila Vyasadeva. Purva Mimamsa is written by Jaimini, a disciple of Vyasadeva. So from these two, one understands how to understand the Vedas correctly. So that person is referred to as a samshaya cheta. He can destroy doubts. He can dissipate all doubts. But superior to just that kind of theoretical Mimamsaka Brahmana, Mimamsaka Brahmana Vikha Swadharma Rata Brahmana Shrestha. A Brahmana who carries out, who actually implements Dharma as taught in the Vedas in his own life, he is better. Swadharma Rata Brahmana Viksha Mukta Sangha Brahmana Shrestha. And superior to a Brahmana who is engaged in his specific duties is a Brahmana who is free from material association, free from material attachment. Atmanah dharman adogdha tad phala ichha rahitaha nishkamaha. A person who is not trying to milk out pious credits by performing his swadharma, his varnic duty. So in other words, he has no interest in dharmartha kama. He is only interested in liberation. Aron Mukta Sangha Brahman Nishkam. Because a Brahmana without material attachment is Nishkama, is devoid of material passion. Sutaram. Consequently, Anushtita Dharmer Phalabhisanti Tahate Nai. Therefore, even though he performs his duties, he does not pursue the material benefits that come out of those duties. So this person is better. Samshaya, okay, wait. Tadastadashadapi swakarma samyak, what is this? Samyak akartu. Oh, he's dividing it like this. Samyak akartu. Sakashat swakarma krit. Why is it saying swakarma? Okay. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that these people who can destroy all doubts, they do not engage in these material duties. They try to be transcendentals, but superior to them are those Brahmanas who actually carry out their Brahmanical duties. They're within the system. Tatta, what is it? Tattva, Tattottamam, what is Tattottamam? Why is it written like this? Tatopi Muktasango Gyani. यतः स स्वधर्ममदौत्था पूर्वदशात्कृत स्वधर्मं तस्य अग्रहीता. And superior to that Brahmana is one freed from material attachment, who is a Jnani Brahmana, because he does not have any desire for the material benefits that come by performing one's own dharma. Arthagya Brahmana refers to one who has made a thorough analytical study of the absolute truth and who knows that the absolute truth is realized in three different phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Brahma. If someone not only has this knowledge but is able to clear all doubts if questioned about the absolute truth, he is considered better. Further, there may be a learned Brahmana Vaishnava who can explain clearly and eradicate all doubts, but if he does not follow the Vaishnava principles, then he is not situated on a real level. One must be able to clear all doubts and simultaneously be situated in the Brahmanical characteristics. Such a person who knows the purpose of the Vedic functions, who can employ the principles laid down in the Vedic literatures, and who teaches his disciples in that way, is called an Acharya. The position of an Acharya is that he executes devotion service with no desire for elevation to a higher position of life. The highest perfection Brahmana is the Vaishnava. A Vaishnava who knows the science of the absolute truth but is not able to preach such knowledge to others is described as being in the lower stage. But one who not only understands the principles of the science of God but can also preach is in the second stage. And one who can not only preach but who also sees everything in the absolute truth. And the absolute truth and everything is in the highest class of Vaishnavas. It's mentioned here that a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana. In fact, the highest stage of Brahmanical perfection is reached when one becomes a Vaishnava. Okay, question.
Prabhu, I I want to clarify that point. You said that by studying Mimamsa scriptures, one understands how to read scriptures.
How to understand the intended meaning of the Vedic scriptures.
Okay. So, if we have not studied it, then simply by reading Prabhupada books, we are clear with that. We can skip that.
Oh, see, the Vedanta Sutra itself is clarified in Bhagavatam. So if we thoroughly study Srimad Bhagavatam and understand Bhagavatam, then all those points will become clear here. Bhagavatam is the ultimate text. Vidya Bhagavatavati, the final limit of Vedic study is Bhagavatam.
Mm-hmm. And Prabhu, this last part of purport, where three grades of Vaishnavas are mentioned, this is related to the verse?
Related to which verse?
The present verse, like the verse is talking about this also? Gradations of Vaishnavas?
It can certainly be interpreted in terms of this verse itself. The Kanishta Vaishnava here, who knows the science of the absolute truth but is not able to preach such knowledge to others, is described as being in the lower stage. So that can be taken as this person, Samshayachata.
And then one who is following?
So akarma, that person can be taken to be the second stage. And Mukta Sangha Sato Bhuya, that person can be taken to be the highest. Possible to interpret. Or it may be just taken in general, as Prabhupada is giving a bird's eye view. It will become clear in the next verse also.
Yes.
53. Tasman Mayarpita Vyarthatma Nirantarah Mayarpitatmanah Pumso मयि संन्यस्त कर्मणः न पश्यामि param bhutam akartu samadarshana. Therefore, I do not find a greater person than he who has no interest outside of mine, and who therefore engages and dedicates all his activities and all his life, everything unto me without cessation. Tasmadapi. Now here, Vishnu Chakravarti has interpreted Tasmat as than him, like in the synonyms. But in the translation, Prabhupada has interpreted Tasman as therefore. So two different meanings can come out of this. तस्मादपि सकाशात् मयि यन्नाम रूप आदिषु अर्पिता अशेषा क्रिया श्रवण नयन आदि व्यापारः अर्थाः आश्रयाः च आत्मनः अहन्तास्पद ममतास्पद मनोबुद्ध्यादयः येन सह. Superior to that person is one who has offered his senses of hearing, seeing, and so on. And this is a reference to all the various activities of the senses. He has offered all of his sensual activities to Lord Kapila is saying, my names, forms, and so on. And apart from that, the shelter of these sensual activities are the various aspects of the subtle body. The locus, the shelter of the conception of I, me, mine, and so on. In other words, the mind, intelligence, ego, contaminated consciousness, false ego, contaminated consciousness, all of them are also offered unto the Supreme Lord. Nirantaraha, karma jnanadi vidhana shunyaha. And he is uninterruptedly engaged in doing this without being interrupted by other Vedic processes such as karma jnana and so on and so on. It includes no sinful activities also. Mai mad prapti arthaha sanyasta karmanaha tyakta varnashma dharmat mad krite tyakta karmana iti urmukte. And he has given up all activities for my sake, which means to attain me. Which means that he has abandoned all the, he has abandoned adharma, and on top of it, he has also abandoned the duties of the Varnashrama system. Because it was already noted, 3.25.22, that for my sake, my devotees, they offer everything. Akartuhu, madbhaktau api bhagwane, madbhaktau api भगवान एव मे भक्तिं कारयति इति बुद्धिया स्वातंत्र्येण कर्तृत्व अभिमान शून्या. And he is a non-doer, because even for engaging in devotional service unto me, Lord Kapila says, he thinks even the devotional service that I am executing to Lord Krishna is actually caused by the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. I am not independently doing anything. It is not that I myself have done all these things. I am impelled by Krishna. So he gives the credit to Lord Krishna. He does not, he is not obsessed with the sense that he himself is responsible for the benefits of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Samadarshana. Swasya samam eva sukha dukkadikam sarvatra pashyatah. And he has an equillusion, which means he considers everyone's happiness, distress, and so on to be equal to his happiness, distress, and so on, respectively. Yatuktam Bhagavata, which has been stated by Bhagavan in Bhagavad Gita 6.32. Atmaupam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjana sukham va yadiva dukkam sayogi paramo mataha. That yogi who sees everyone in comparison to himself, my dear Arjuna, whether they are in a state of happiness or whether they are in a state of unhappiness. He is the best yogi. Nacha विद्यावने संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे कविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव शुपाक्ये च पंडिता समदर्शिन इत्युक्तं समदर्शित्वं वाच्यं जीवा श्रेष्ठा ह्यजीवानाम् इत्यादि प्रक्रांत वाक्य विरोधा. One should not interpret that the Samadarshi is the sort of Samadarshi that is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 5.18. In Bhagavad Gita 5.18, the equal vision that is being discussed is the equal vision of the different forms of the souls and the super souls as being in various external species of life or different states within the same species, different grades within the same species of life. This is not that, because this section began with 3.29.28. The jivas are better than the non-jivas, and so on. So already a gradation has been brought out. So here the whole discussion is in terms of perception of others' happiness and distress as being of the same value as one's own happiness and unhappiness. So it is not that one should not conclude that equal vision means some kind of impersonalistic equal vision. In this verse, the word Samadarshanath means that he no longer has any separate interest. The devotee's interest and the Supreme Personality of God's interest are one. For example, Lord Chaitanya, in the role of a devotee, also preached the same philosophy. He preached that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the interest of his pure devotees is the same as his own. Sometimes Mayavadi philosophers, due to a poor fund of knowledge, define the word Samadarshana to mean that a devotee should see himself as one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is foolishness. When one thinks himself one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no question of serving him. When there is service, there must be a master. Three things must be present for there to be service: the master, the servant, and the service. Here, it is clearly stated that he who has dedicated his life, all his activities, his mind and his soul, everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme God, is considered to be the greatest person. The word akartuhu means without any sense of proprietorship. Everyone wants to act as a proprietor of his actions so that he can enjoy the result. So the idea is that we attain a certain benefit by engaging in certain activity, and then we want to claim credit for it because we say that, no, I performed this activity by my own initiative. It was my project. I decided it. I did it. So this is what Prabhupada refers to as proprietor of his actions. A devotee, however, has no such desire. He acts because the personality of Godhead wants him to act in a particular way. He has no personal motive. When Lord Chaitanya preached Krishna consciousness, it was not with the purpose that people would call him Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, he preached that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be worshipped as such. A devotee who is a most confidential servant of the Lord never does anything for his personal account, but does everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is clearly stated, Mai Sanyasta Karmanaha. The devotee works, but he works for the Supreme. It is also stated, Mayarpitatmanaha. He gives his mind unto me. These are the qualifications of a devotee who, according to this verse, is accepted as the highest of all human beings. 34. Manasaitani bhutani pranamed bahumanayan Ishvaro jiva kalaya pravishto bhagavan. Such a perfect devotee offers respects to every living entity, because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as a super soul or controller. With his mind, he offers respects to all of these living entities while showing them regard, because he thinks that the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Personality of God, has entered into the bodies of these living creatures by his expansion as the super soul of the living creatures. Manasaitani iti. Jiva kalaya, okay. Jiva rupa ya kala taya saha. Krishna Chakravarti has interpreted this as the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has entered into these bodies along with his separated portions in the form of the Jivatmas. A perfect devotee, as described above, does not make the mistake of thinking that because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramatma, has entered into the body of every living entity, has become the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is foolishness. Suppose a person enters into a room, that does not mean that the room has become that person. Similarly, that the Supreme Lord has entered into each of the 8,400,000 particular types of material bodies does not mean that each of these bodies has become the Supreme Lord. Because the Supreme Lord is present, however, a pure devotee accepts each body as a temple of the Lord. And since the devotee offers respect to such temples in full knowledge, he gives respect to every living entity in relationship with the Lord. Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that because the Supreme Person has entered the body of a poor man, the Supreme Lord has become Daridra Narayan or poor Narayan. These are all blasphemous statements of atheists and non-devotees. "35. Bhakti yogascha maya manavyodiritaha yayorekatarenaiva purusham vrajet." My dear mother, a daughter of Manu, O daughter of Manu, a devotee who applies the science of devotional service and mystic yoga in this way can achieve the abode of the Supreme Person simply by that devotional service. Uktam bhakti yogam purvoktena ashtanga yogena saha upasamharati bhakti iti. So now he concludes the discussion of bhakti yoga along with the discussion on ashtanga yoga. Purusham brajet parameshwaram mam prapnuyat. Such a person can achieve the Supreme Person means such a person can attain the Supreme Lord, that is me. Bhakti yogena chid ghanam madiya shri murti sakshatkaraha. Through Bhakti yoga, one attains direct experience of my sacred forms, which are made up of concentrated knowledge. Ashtanga yogena chaman nirvishesha swarupa sakshatkara iti. And through Ashtanga yoga, one can experience my impersonal feature. Because in the scriptures, both of these attainments have been referred to as attaining me. Somapati Gauranga.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, in the previous verse, it is written that because Supreme Lord is situated in one's body, we accept this body as a temple. So, is this the reason that when we touches unknowingly someone, our foot touches to someone, we offer pranams to them like that?
Yes.
So, Prabhu, also we see now we travel in the trains, in local trains and all, so there is so much problem with this. Wherever we go, then the left side. But we cannot avoid that also.
You cannot avoid what?
Traveling, especially in Bengal in local trains. We have to travel at the same time. We have to be careful, but that is not possible.
That's okay. So before you enter into the train, you can pray to Lord Vishnu.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I want to understand this point regarding proprietor of one's actions. Prabhupada is saying because he wants to enjoy the result. So, some examples that can you give, Prabhu, how we tend to enjoy our results within devotional service or maybe outside people for better clarity?
I study, I get good marks, I get a good company posting or something like that because I passed my campus interview nicely. So it is entirely due to my endeavors that I got all these things. There are no reasons, no co-reasons. I alone am responsible for this. So the conclusion is, you work hard, you will attain success. So these are all ahankara vimudha kartaham iti manyate idea.
So, how they are enjoying the result?
What? They get that benefit. So I got into a company, I'm enjoying that post. That's all. Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on. Herein, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Deva, perfectly explains that the mystic yoga system, consisting of 8 different kinds of yoga activities, has to be performed with the aim of coming to the perfectional stage of Bhakti Yoga. This is the wish of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, he wants that one execute karma or jnana or yoga in order to come to the point of pure Vishnu Bhakti. So Prabhupada is spelling it out. But what people actually do in general is that they execute Ashtanga Yoga to attain impersonal realization. Even for that, they need to come to the point of Kevala Bhakti. It is not acceptable for one to be satisfied simply by practicing the sitting postures and thinking himself complete. By meditation, one must attain the stage of devotion service. As previously described, a yogi is advised to meditate on the form of Lord Vishnu from point to point, from the ankles to the legs, to the knees, to the thighs, to the chest, to the neck, and in this way, gradually up to the face and then to the ornaments. There is no question of impersonal meditation. When by meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all detail, one comes to the point of love of God, that is the point of Bhakti Yoga. And at that point, he must actually render service to the Lord out of transcendental love. Anyone who practices yoga and comes to the point of devotion service can attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his transcendental abode. Here it is clearly stated, Purusha Purusham Vrajit. The Purusha, the living entity, goes to the Supreme Person. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity are qualitatively one. Both are defined as Purusha. The quality of Purusha exists both in the Supreme Godhead and in the living entity. Purusha means enjoyer, and the spirit of enjoyment is present both in the living entity and in the Supreme Lord. The difference is that the quantity of enjoyment is not equal. The living entity cannot experience the same quantity of enjoyment as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An analogy may be made with a rich man and a poor man. The propensity for enjoyment is present in both, but the poor man cannot enjoy the same quantity as the rich man. When the poor man dovetails his desires with those of the rich man, however, and when there is cooperation between the poor man and the rich man, or between the big and the small man, then the enjoyment is shared equally. That is like Bhakti Yoga. Purusha Purusham Vrajet. When the living entity enters into the kingdom of God and cooperates with the Supreme Lord by giving him enjoyment, he enjoys the same facility or the same amount of pleasure as the Supreme Personality of God. According to his capacity. On the other hand, when the living entity wants to enjoy by imitating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his desire is called Maya, and it puts him in the material atmosphere. A living entity who wants to enjoy on his personal account, not cooperate with the Supreme Lord, is engaged in materialistic life. As soon as he dovetails his enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is engaged in spiritual life. An example might be cited here. The different limbs of the body cannot enjoy life independently. They must cooperate with the whole body and supply food to the stomach. In so doing, all the different parts of the body enjoy equally in cooperation with the whole body. That is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference. The living entity cannot enjoy life in opposition to the Supreme Lord. He has to dovetail his activities with the Lord by practicing Bhakti Yoga. It is said herein that one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead by either the yoga process or the Bhakti Yoga process. This indicates that actually there is no difference between yoga and Bhakti Yoga because the target of both is Vishnu. In the modern age, however, a yoga process has been manufactured which aims at something void and impersonal. Actually, yoga means meditation on the form of Lord Vishnu. If the yoga practice is actually performed according to the standard direction, there is no difference between yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So the path of yoga refers to avoiding sins and offenses and starting with Bhakti Mishra Karma, progressing to Bhakti Mishra Jnana, and then to Bhakti Mishra Yoga, and then Yoga Mishra Bhakti, and then Bhakti. That is actually described as the path of yoga. Now, through this pathway, one can attain Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagwan. All three possibilities are there. Another pathway is a pathway of Jnana. That pathway is without sins and offenses. From Bhakti Mishra Karma, one progresses to Bhakti Mishra Jnana, and then Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and then Bhakti. And then one can attain Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan. Then there is another pathway. Generally, this is what we refer to as the pathway of Bhakti. Without sins and offenses. From Bhakti Mishra Karma, one progresses to Karma Mishra Bhakti and then Bhakti. And then one can attain Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan. I think is that. If the yoga practice is actually performed according to the standard direction, there is no difference between yoga and Bhakti. 26. Etad bhagavato rupam brahmanah paramatmanah param pradhanam purusham daivam karma vicheshtitam. This Purusha, whom the individual soul must approach, is the eternal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Brahman and Paramatma. He is the transcendental chief personality and his activities are all spiritual. Nanu tayor ekatarena eva purushah purusham vrajed prabravishi atu purushah mam vrajed iti purushe iti atah sa purushe eva kaha. Now, Lord Kapila had stated, the Purusha attains the Purusha. Literally, that's what he said. So the question might arise, through any of these processes, the Purusha should attain the Purusha. You have said this. So you did not say that the Purusha should attain me. So who is that Purusha? Anticipating this, the Supreme Lord points to himself. Tatra svatarjanya svavaksha sprishan aha etaditi. He says, I am that Purusha. I am Artha. This is the point. Ya khalu bhakteshu. What is this? Bhagavat. Right. Bhagavan Bhavati. Jnanishu Brahma, Yogishu Paramatma, Tasya eva param yad aprakrita rupam tadetadeva tat putraha hameva parameshwara ityartha. That person who is Bhagavan for the bhaktas, Brahman for the Gyanis, Paramatma for the yogis. That form is I myself. That transcendental form is I myself. Tvat putraha, your son. And I am the Supreme Lord, Parameshwara. Na kevalam etavadeva. And I am not only this much. Kintu prakriti purusha jiva adrishta kaladyapi madiyam etadrupameva. Nityaha. Rather, Prakriti is my form, Purusha is my form, Jiva is my form, Adrishta is my form, Kala, time is my form, and so on. Pradhanam cha, tad pravartakaha, Purushaha cha, iti dvandvaikyam. What? In this reading, Pradhana Purusha, it doesn't come. I think he has a reading Pradhana Purusha. So he is the one who impels Pradhana, and he is the Purusha. Daivam, Jiva Adrishtam. Oh, Jiva Adrishtam. He is the Purusha. He is the impeller of Prakriti. He is the Purusha. He is the impeller of the Adrishta, the unseen force of destiny for the Jivas. He is also time. All of that comes in. Pradhanam, Purusham, Daivam, Karma Vicheshtitam. Daivam, Jiva Adrishtam, Kidrisham Karma Bhi, Punya Papai, Vidham Cheshtitam Yatastat. Daivam refers to one's own destiny brought about due to various types of pious and impious activities. Daivam Karma Vicheshtitam also has another meaning. That Supreme Being, he engages in various activities. In order to distinguish the personality whom the individual soul must approach, it is described herein that this Purusha, the Supreme Personality of God, is a chief amongst all living entities and is the ultimate form of the impersonal Brahman effulgence and Paramatma manifestation. Since he is the origin of the Brahman effulgence and Paramatma manifestation, he is described here as the chief personality. It is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam. There are many eternal living entities, but he is the chief maintainer. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita also, where Lord Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavaha. I am the origin of everything, including the Brahman effulgence and Paramatma manifestation. His activities are transcendental, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Daivam Karma Vicheshtitam, a very interesting expression. Here then Daivam would be an adjective of Karma Vicheshtitam. He is the one whose various endeavors of activity are spiritual. His activities are transcendental as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Janma Karma Shame Divyam. The activities and the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are transcendental. They are not to be considered material. Anyone who knows this fact that the appearance, disappearance, and activities of the Lord are beyond material activities or material conception is liberated. Yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma. Such a person, after quitting his body, does not come back again to this material world, but goes to the Supreme Person. It is confirmed here. Purusham Raja. The living entity goes to the Supreme Personality simply by understanding his transcendental nature and activities. Question.
Prabhu, in verse number 33, when there was a term of Samdarshi, you were explaining that how this Samdarshi was different from Bhagavad Gita. So I could not understand it properly. Bhagavad Gita Samdarshi sees soul in different bodies. And is this correct, Prabhu?
Yes.
And this Samdarshi, what does he do? I missed this.
This Samadarshi is the other type of Samadarshi, who also brought out in Bhagavad Gita. The one who sees everyone's happiness and distress to be like his own happiness and distress. The two different Samadarshis, 5.18 Bhagavad Gita Samadarshi, 6.32 Bhagavad Gita Samadarshi. So this Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says it refers to 6.32 Bhagavad Gita Samadarshi. Okay?
Oh, yes, Prabhu. And who, one more question from verse purport of 35th verse. When that explanation or expression comes that we are eternally dependent on Lord, like stomach and other limbs of the body. So if a person may ask that why it's made like that, so we can answer that by saying that it is Lord's wish. He's the boss. He decided, and we should be ever dependent.
Yes.
Means it's beyond our. We cannot ask this question.
Now, everybody has a right to ask any question. Right to information is very much there in Vedic culture. So, what is the problem?
No, but because he is the Lord, so it was his desire, and he is beyond our control. So he desired us like that. That's why we are like that.
Okay. So, what is the problem now?
No, this is the answer for this.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And Prabhu, one last point is in the present purpose. Last
What
line.
exactly do they want? What do they want?
No, they have a complaint that why we are made all eternally dependent on someone. They don't like the concept of being dependent. Even though there is this term that enjoyment is shared equally.
See, all of us have various fantasies, but ultimately we have to surrender to reality. We have to surrender to reality. In my fantasy, I can become a Superman and save a child in suffering inside a burning building. But is that reality? I have to surrender to reality. No point in trying to enjoy in fantasy. Then anyone can complain about anything. Why am I a man? Why am I not a woman? Women can complain why they are women, why they are not men. Then somebody can complain why I'm not a tiger, why I have to be a human. What is this? All some meaningless craziness. Okay.
Yes, bro.
Another question.
And so this last point of I have trouble with this expression that simply by understanding Lord's name, form, and activities, one goes back to our end. So this simply by understanding means I could not understand. What is this understanding?
Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shauchati na kankshati. Samasarveshu bhuteshu man bhaktim lavate param. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Yavan yaschasmi tatvatah. So when one executes Parabhakti, then one understands Lord Krishna as he is. Tato mam tatvato gyatva. And after getting to know about him, Vishite tadanantaram, then he attains the kingdom of God. So this is the meaning of simply understanding. That's all.
So simply understanding means simply by executing Kevala Bhakti.
Simply by executing Kevala Bhakti with no desire for anything other than the Lord's pleasure. Para Bhakti.
But Prabhu, this is not simple. The words are saying simply by understanding, but the process is...
Simply by understanding. Before that, what understanding you can derive? How can you understand the Adhokshaja, the one who is beyond the range of the mind and senses? How can you understand him? You can only understand him through revelation. So when revelation comes, simply by understanding that, that's it. You don't need to study so many things and understand the meaning of so many scriptures. You don't need to understand hundreds of things. You just need to understand Krishna. That's all.
Okay, bro. Thank you, Prabhu.
Somapati Prabhu had a question.
The same question I was also asking.
Wonderful.
Janma karma maybe same.
Okay, let's move on. 37. Bhutanam. Sorry, 37. रूपभेदास्पदं दिव्यं काल इत्यभिधीयते भूतानां महदादीनां यतोदृशं भयम्. The time factor which causes the transformation of the various material manifestations is another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who does not know that time is the same Supreme Personality is afraid of the time factor. Tatha kala iti abhidhiyate. I am also referred to as Kala, Lord Kapila says. Yat tad api divyam adbhuta prabhavam at swarupameva. That is also divine and of astonishing power and prowess. That is also a feature of mine. Rupa bhedasya vastunam anyatha bhavasya aspadam ashraya karana. It is this time factor that is the shelter or the cause of the transformation of various material manifestations. Uttam has already been stated. Kala guna vyatikara. It is because of the time factor that the modes of material nature become agitated. Taya prishtam kalasya lakshanam ukta. What is this? Tatha kala. Tvaya prishtam. Tvaya prishtam kalasya lakshanam uktam uchyate cha. Ityaha. So you had asked for the a definition of time. Now that has been stated, and I'm stating it again. Ityaha yatah sakasham yato bhinnadrisham bhayam. Yatah sakasham mahadadinam bhutanam mahadadinam yato bhinnadrisham bhayam. Yatah sakasham. It is from this time factor. Mahadadinam tattat abhimani nam जीवानाम सृष्टि आदि मध्यांत भावानाम भिन्न दृशाम अज्ञानिनाम सर्वेषाम भयम. Fear comes about because of this time factor for the jivatmas who are identifying with the various products of material nature, beginning with the jivas who identify with Mahat Tattva and so on, up to the ones who identify with their own gross bodies. So now all of these bodies, they go through various phases, beginning with creation. And then they go through maintenance. And then they end up with destruction. So these living entities, they have a separate vision. And therefore they are in spiritual ignorance. So therefore all of them have fear. Everyone is afraid of the activities of time. But a devotee who knows that the time factor is another representation or manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to fear from the influence of time. The phrase Rupa Bhedaspadam is very significant. By the influence of time, so many forms are changing. Rupa means form, Bheda means difference. Aspadam means the cause. The cause of the difference in forms. In other words, the cause of the transformation of forms. Who causes the transformation of the various material manifestations. By the influence of time, so many forms are changing. For example, when a child is born, his form is small. But in the course of time, that form changes into a larger form. The body of a boy, and then the body of a young man. Similarly, everything is changed and transformed by the time factor or by the indirect control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Usually, we do not see any difference between the body of a child and the body of a boy or young man because we know that these changes are due to the action of the time factor. There is cause for fear for a person who does not know how time acts. 28. Yontah pravishya bhutani bhuter atyakhilashrayah sa vishwakyodhiyagyo sau kalah kaletam prabhu. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of God, who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, is the time factor and the master of all masters. He enters everyone's heart. He is the support of everyone. And he causes every being to be annihilated by another. How exactly are they afraid? That is now pointed out here. Yaha bhutaihi eva bhutani atti samharati. It destroys living entities using living entities. Adhiyagyaha yagya adhikarittvena tat phaladata. He is the adhiyagya. He is the superintendent of the system of fire sacrifices. In other words, the one who grants the benefits of performing fire sacrifices. Kalayatam vashikurvatam api. He is the master of those who bring others under control. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of God, is clearly described in this passage. He is the supreme enjoyer, and all others are working as his servants. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 5.14, Kaleshwara Krishna. The only Supreme Lord is Vishnu, our servants. Here, all others are the servants. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods are all servants. The same Vishnu enters everyone's heart as Paramatma and he causes annihilation of every being through another being. 59. Nachasi kaschid daito nadveshyo achabandhavaha avishatya pramattoso pramattam janamantakrit. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend. But he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have. Forgetfulness of one's relationship with Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of one's repeated birth and death. A living entity is as eternal as the Supreme Lord. But due to his forgetfulness, he is put into this material nature and transmigrates from one body to another. And when the body is destroyed, he thinks that he is also destroyed. Actually, this forgetfulness of his relationship with Lord Vishnu is the cause of his destruction. Anyone who revives his consciousness of the original relationship receives inspiration from the Lord. This does not mean that the Lord is someone's enemy and someone else's friend. He helps everyone. One who is not bewildered by the influence of material energy is saved, and one who is bewildered is destroyed. It is therefore said, Harim vinana mritim taranti. Sometimes it says, Harim vinana sritim taranti. No one can be saved from the repetition of birth and death without the help of the Supreme Lord. It is therefore the duty of all living entities to take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu and thus save themselves from the cycle of birth and death. 40. Yad bhayad vati vato yam suryas tapati yad bhayad varshate devo bhagano bhati yad bhayad. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of Him, the sun shines. Out of fear of Him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of Him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead means out of fear of that Lord who is known as Vishnu. Yad yasmat Vishnu akhyat. The Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate. Nature is working under my direction. The foolish person thinks that nature is working automatically, but such an atheistic theory is not supported in the Vedic literature. Nature is working under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. And we also find here that the sun shines under the direction of the Lord, and the cloud pours forth showers of rain under the direction of the Lord. All natural phenomena are under superintendence of the Supreme Personality of God. And Vishnu, 41. Yad vanaspatayo bhita tatascha visaha swe swe kale vidrihnanti pushpani cha phalani cha. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trees, creepers, herbs, and seasonal plants and flowers blossom and fructify, each in its own season. As the sun rises and sets, and the seasonal changes ensue at their appointed times by the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so the seasonal plants, flowers, herbs, and trees all grow under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It is not that plants grow automatically without any cause, as the atheistic philosophers say. Rather, they grow in pursuance of the supreme order of the Supreme Personality of God. It is confirmed in the Vedic literature that the Lord's diverse energies are working so nicely that it appears that everything is being done automatically. 42. Sravanti sarito bhita not sarpatyudadhiryatah agnarindhe sangiribhed bhurnamajyati adbhaya. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of God, the rivers flow and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear of Him only does fire burn, and does the earth with its mountains not sink in the water of the universe. Agnirindhe, Indhe, Dipyate, Saha Agnihi. Fire burns only out of fear of Him. Girivi Saha Bhuhu Bahu Papatmaka Purusha Bharena Pinamajyati. Earth, along with its mountains, and with the weight of mankind, filled with several sins, does not sink in the water of the universe. Kintu kashtera vidhairyameva dhatte. Still with difficulty, she holds up. Atikashte tu dwaparante taya go rupinya brahmane swabhava jnapanam. What is it? Iti bhava. Iti bhava. When it becomes too difficult, at the end of Dwapara Yoga, she assumes the form of a cow, goes to Lord Brahma in order to inform him of her situation. This is implied here. We can understand from the Vedic literature that this universe is half filled with water on which Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is lying. From his abdomen, a lotus flower has grown, and within the stem of the lotus flower, all the different planets exist. The material scientist explains that all these different planets are floating because of the law of gravity or some other law. But the actual lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of God. When we speak of law, we must understand that there must be a lawmaker. The material scientists can discover laws of nature, but they are unable to recognize the lawmaker. From Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we can know who is the lawmaker. The lawmaker is the Supreme Personality of God. It is said here that the planets do not sink, since they are floating under the order or energy of the Supreme Godhead. They do not sink, they do not fall down into the water, which covers half the universe. All the planets are heavy with their various mountains, seas, oceans, cities, palaces, and buildings, and yet they are floating. It is understood from this passage that all the other planets that are floating in the air have oceans and mountains similar to those on this planet. (43) Nabho dadati shvasatam padam yan niyamadadah lokam swadeham tanute mahan saptabhiravritam. Subject to the control of the Supreme Personality of God, the sky allows outer space to accommodate all the various planets which hold innumerable living entities. The total universal body expands with its 7 coverings under his supreme control. Adaha nabhas yanyama yanrudesha shwasatam jivatam praninam shwasakriyavatam padam avakasham atumritanam dadati. The sky, under directions from the time factor, it provides space for the living creatures to breathe and to perform various activities. He does not provide that for the dead creatures, but he provides it for the living creatures. Mahan Mahatattvam Brahma Swadeham Vairajam Lokam Bhuradi Lokatvera Vistarayati. Lord Brahma, he expands his own body in the form of Mahatattva, which is actually Mahatattva, in the form of the total universal body, Vairaja, with all of its details such as Bhurvasva. It is understood from this verse that all the planets in outer space are floating and they all hold living entities. The word Shwasatam means those who breathe or the living entities. In order to accommodate them, there are innumerable planets. Every planet is a residence for innumerable living entities, and the necessary space is provided in the sky by the supreme order of the Lord. It is also stated here that the total universal body is increasing. It is covered by 7 layers, and as there are 5 elements within the universe, so the total elements in layers cover the outside of the universal body. The first layer is of earth, and it is 10 times greater in size than the space within the universe. The second layer is water, that is 10 times greater than the earthly layer. The third covering is fire, which is 10 times greater than the water covering. In this way, each layer is 10 times greater than the previous one. 44. Gunabhimanino deva sargadishvasya yadbhyat vartante no yugam yesham vasha etat characharam. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of God and the directing demigods in charge of the modes of material nature, carry out the functions of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Everything animate and inanimate within this material world is under their control. Gunabhimanino Brahman Dharma Rudra Adayaha. Why Brahman? 44. Yes. Refers to Brahma, Dharma, Rudra, and so on. Anuyugam, Pratikalpam. Anuyugam. According to the yugas, as found in each kalpa. The 3 modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, are under the control of 3 deities. Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. Lord Vishnu is in charge of the mode of goodness. Lord Brahma is in charge of the mode of passion. And Lord Shiva is in charge of the mode of ignorance. Similarly, there are many other demigods in charge of the air department, the water department, the cloud department, etc. Just as the government has many different departments, so within this material world, the government of the Supreme Lord has many departments. And all these departments function in proper order out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Demigods are undoubtedly controlling all matter, animate and inanimate within the universe, but above them, the Supreme Controller is the Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Ishvara Paramah Krishna. Undoubtedly, there are many controllers in the departmental management of this universe, but the Supreme Controller is Krishna. There are two kinds of dissolutions. One kind of dissolution takes place when Brahma goes to sleep during his night, and the final dissolution takes place when Brahma dies. As long as Brahma does not die, creation, maintenance, and destruction are actuated by different demigods under the superintendence of the Supreme Lord. 45. So nantoantakarah kalo nadiradikrudavya janam janena janayan marayan mrityunantakam. The eternal time factor has no beginning and no end. It is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maker of the criminal world. It brings about the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing one individual into existence from another. And likewise, it solves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, Yamaraj. Janena, Pitradina, Janayan, Son, Adikrit. Why does it say like this? Okay, wait, let me look at this somewhere. Sakalaha, that time, Janena, Pitradina, Janam, Pitradim, Janayan, Avirbhavayan. This time factor is the one that brings about the appearance of a son who is one person from another person, from a father. This is just an illustration. Adikrit Bhavati. So in that way, he is the original creator. Mrityuna Antakam, Marakamapi, Marayan, Antakarah Bhavati. He also brings about the end of everything through death. So in that way, he is the killer of all. He is the destroyer of all. Swayam tu anadihi janmarahitaha. He himself is beginningless, without any birth. Anantaha. He is without any end. He is without a beginning. Adi, anta. He is without any end. Marana shunyaha. He is devoid of death. Avyayaha. Apakshayadi vikara shunyaha. And he is also inexhaustible, which indicates that he does not decay and so on. This is all a reference to the 6 degrading transformations. By the influence of eternal time, which is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Father begets a son, and the Father dies by the influence of cruel death. By time's influence, even the Lord of cruel death is killed. In other words, all the demigods within the material world are temporary like ourselves. Our lives last for 100 years at the most. And similarly, although their lives may last for millions and billions of years, the demigods are not eternal. No one can live within this material world eternally. The phenomenal world is created, maintained, and destroyed by the single signal of the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, a devotee does not desire anything in this material world. A devotee desires only to serve the Supreme Personality of God. This servitude exists eternally. The Lord exists eternally. His servitor exists eternally. And the service exists eternally. Okay, question.
Prabhu, in these verses, when it is said that out of fear of Kala, out of fear of Lord, everything are happening, like wind is blowing, the ocean is not overflowing, and so on. So, which person exactly it represents when it says that out of fear It's Kala, but it is representing Mahakala, something like that.
Here the discussion is about Lord Vishnu, the original person who impels the time factor.
Okay.
Vishnu Akhya Kala. Okay, let's move on. Chapter 30. Description by Lord Kapila. Yes.
Prabhu, when it is said that because material world, everything is destroyed, therefore a devotee does not desire anything in this world. So if we give this reason that because everything is temporary here, so devotee is not interested in anything of this world. Doesn't it give a selfish tinge that because a devotee wants permanent things, that's why he's interested in serving the Lord?
No, he is interested in permanently serving the Lord. This is a Sattvic devotee. A Sattvic devotee wants liberation.
Okay.
Onishtas and Paranishtitas.
Okay, bro.
They do want liberation. They want liberation.
And bro, in the previous verse, number 44, I got one doubt that if these three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, are controlling three modes, and then we say that these three modes are also controlled by Durga Devi. So, is there any correlation between the two?
Durga Devi is Shakti, and originally that Shakti is Lord Vishnu's Shakti. So there is definitely a lot of interrelationships between the Lord, his subordinates, his potencies, their potencies, and so on. But in summary, we can understand that Durga Devi is also dependent on Lord Krishna. We know that from Brahma.
We have any details of it? That how she is also controlling three modes, and then these three deities are also controlling three modes?
No, these three deities are overall in charge. She is controlling the three modes only in the sense that she is the potency. Like Shiva has his potency, Vishnu has his potency, Brahma has his potency. So it is in the sense of all the potencies being of the same quality that they are equal. It's only in that sense, not in any literal sense.
Can we say that potencies of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh are controlling the three modes?
Yeah, that's natural. Control is executed through controlling potencies.
They are using their Shakti, and that Shakti is represented by Durga Devi.
That is one analysis. That is one analysis, one way of analyzing. There are several ways of analyzing.
Okay, bro.
Okay, chapter 30. Description by Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activities. 1. Kapila Vacha. Tasya jano nunam ayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayorivadhanavalihi. The personality of God is said, as a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind. A person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor by which he is being carried. Darshini. Nirgunam sagunam bhaktim jnana yoga cha satvikau harish panchabhiratyaya darshayamasa mataram. In 5 chapters, Lord Hari revealed to his mother Nirguna Bhakti, Saguna Bhakti, and Sattvic Jnana and Sattvic Yoga. अध्याय तृतीयेनाथ क्रमेण किल कर्मणां तामसीं राजसीं चापि सात्विकीं गतिम् ऐक्षयत्. Okay, fine. And then in 3 chapters from now, in sequence, he is going to talk about the goals, the destinations of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic activities of karma. Trimshetarunya vruddhatvam. What is it? Vruddhatvam, vruddhatvam. Checking here. Trimshetarunya vruddhatva mriti naraka yantrana praha samsarikanam stri putra dyakula chetasam. In chapter 30, he points out the various torments caused in Tarunya, youthful age, Vruddhatva, old age, Mriti, death, and in hell. And this is experienced by those who are in samsara chakra, the cycle of birth and rebirth, and whose minds are overwhelmed by thoughts about women, children, and so on. अथ हरिभक्तिं विना विचित्र कर्म कृतां सांसारिकं दुःखम अध्याय त्रयेण प्रपंचयत्. He then elaborates on in 3 chapters on the distresses of material existence brought about by various forms of material activities without engaging in haribhakti. Tasya kalasya, tasya evasya kalasya, of this very time factor. Let's know the powerful strength of the time factor. Balinaha, balina iti cha part. Kalyamanaha balinaha, which is very powerful strength of the time factor. Sometimes balina comes instead of balina. The meaning would tend to be the same. The purport we have to read out in the next session. We'll stop with this. Amshakal Pudru Vyashili Pasan Vishya Chapakana Pavakyo Vishnu Namo Namaha.